Hey guys, today we are going to do the Conic shout-out project. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to explain, we're going to talk about the big picture. We're going to talk about how we're going to determine our shouting range, the data that we're going to be collecting, and all the other steps of the project. So let's start with the introduction. You and two other teachers are on recess duty at Greenville Elementary School. Between the three of you, you need to be able to communicate with all the students at recess. Below, a map of school recess fields, which is actually our own school fields. But use your imagination. Your job is to figure out where each of the three teachers, you and the other two group members, should stand during recess duty. Each teacher's shouting range will be represented by a circle. Your shouting circles should, and these are the three criteria for the circles, leave no space between the circles. B, allow for a teacher to hear at least one of the other teachers. And C, to cover the largest possible area while fulfilling the other two requirements. So there's no surprise here, there's no secret. We are learning about the equations of circles, and now is our opportunity to apply equations of circles to kind of fun activity where we're going to pretend like we're at recess. So now for the details. The first thing we need to do is we need to determine our shouting ranges, right? Which ultimately will be the radius of the three circles of our three teachers in our group. So the first thing we need to do in order to make that happen is we need to write 20 random school-appropriate words. So let's just do that. Let's say dog, cat, tree, frog, the color red, sure, blue, banana, apple, eyes, nose. Any words will do as long as they're school appropriate. Truck, car, leaf, water, lake, river, cow, let's see, what else? Sheep, fast, and slow. So there are no rules to the words. The only thing is they're going to be school appropriate. So now, these are the 20 words that we're going to work with. Now, the way that this is going to be set up, right, when we go out into the field, okay, we're going to have teacher A is going to be the one shouting, right? And then teacher B is going to be the one listening, and teacher C is going to have these words written down, this exact same piece of paper you're seeing in front of you, ideally maybe on a clipboard. So the shouter and not the listener, but teacher C will have the same list of words in front of them. So what's going to happen is here you have teacher A, right? And then 20 yards out, which just can be measured by 20 just big steps, right? You have teachers B and C. So again, B is the listener, C has the clipboard. So A has a clipboard, and so does C, right? So in other words, teacher C knows when teacher A is yelling, right? And we'll be able to verify whether or not teacher B could hear clearly what teacher A was yelling, or shouting, I should say, right? So what we're going to do here is the first thing, we will yell words. Teacher A will yell words 20, 4, and 1. So in other words, the teacher will yell slow, frog, dog. Right? Now, if teacher B gets it correct, if teacher B says, oh, I think teacher A yelled slow, frog, dog, right? Then teacher C would say you got it right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take another 10 steps, right, for a total of 30 yards. And now they will repeat the process again. Right? So the next set of words, it looks like 6, 5, 14. So teacher A will yell blue, red, water. Right? And then if teacher B says to teacher C, oh, I think he said blue, red, water, then teacher C would say that is correct, and we would take another 10 steps. Right? So for a total of 40 yards. Right? And then teacher A would repeat the process. Teacher A would yell words 8, 2, and 18. So in other words, apple, cat, and sheep. Apple, cat, sheep. And if teacher B says, oh, I think he said apple, cat, sheep, then they would go another 10 yards. Now, eventually what's going to happen is that teacher B will not be able to clearly make out the 3 words. And then teacher C would say, all right, that is it. That is the end of the range. So let's just say that happened to take place at this point in time, right, where teacher B did not get it right, then what we would say is the shouting range is 30 yards. And that is what teacher A would use as the radius, for teacher A's circle. Right? From our experience, just about every student, is somewhere between 20 and 100 yards. And if for whatever reason it's 100 yards, where you could put a cap on it and say, all right, the maximum radius will be 100 yards. That's kind of what we've done in the past. Otherwise, you get students walking in the woods and things get crazy. So anyway, that is how we collect the data. That's probably the most complicated part of the project. Once we do that, once we have 3 teachers, each with a shouting range, of course, we're going to, you notice the steps B, C, D is just the same process, which is different combinations of teachers rotating through so everyone gets to do it. Once that data is collected, all 3 teachers have a shouting range. Then we go to the next part, which is just the rough draft. Right? So what you're doing here is you're strategizing where do you think the circles should go, right? This is not the final circles that you're going to be drawing. This is just you and your group trying to strategize, fulfill all 3 criteria, which I believe no overlap between the circles. Every teacher has to be able to hear at least one teacher, so think about what that means geometrically. And then you want to cover the biggest possible area. So those are the 3 criteria. And you're going to do a rough draft, kind of where you think the circle should be, and then you're going to explain why you're putting the circles where you are putting them. So there's a graphic component of this and a written component to the rough draft, right? And then not finally, but the next step, once you do that, you are actually going to write your equation. So I think you guys know at this point, the teacher's position would actually be represented by the centers of the circles, right? So think about what that means, right? So maybe you coordinates 30, 20, or something like that with a radius, right, which will always be the shouting range. So I think for this situation, I think we agreed that teacher A's radius, I think, was 30 yards, right? So 30 would be the radius. And again, the coordinate grid that we have laid out over the fields, which you guys saw in the first 2 parts, or the first part and the rough draft part, right, will show us where, that's where you're going to decide, okay, where is the center of this teacher's radius? In other words, where will this teacher stand? If this was just, I'll switch this up here, so we get kind of unique numbers for each thing. But if this was where we would put our teacher at this particular coordinate pair, and with this radius, right, your circle would be, let's see, it would be x minus 40 squared plus y minus 20 squared, and then remember it would be the radius squared, which I believe 900. So that would be the equation for teacher A's circle if we chose to put that teacher there. Okay? Once we do this, the next part is to actually graph these circles. Right? So if I were to graph the circle that I just mentioned, what did I say, 40, 20, with a radius of 30, right? So that would be that particular circle for teacher A. Of course, you can use circles for B and C as well, trying to fit all the criteria. And then the final part is just explaining that you did it, right? Explaining that you did fulfill the 3 criteria, and just saying, how does your graph fulfill each of the 3, which actually should be pretty easy to do once you've actually graphed them out. So anyway, that concludes the project. That is the Conic shout-out. This is our project focusing on the equations of circles. And I hope you guys learn a lot from this. I hope you have a lot of fun doing it.